Fascist Italy was one of the big three of the Axis powers during the Second World War, and a leading member in signing the Tripartite pact. When looking at the history of this relatively young country, with it only unifying in 1861, there is one point that can be definitively pointed to that signalled the beginning of fascist rule in Italy: the March on Rome. To first understand the March on Rome, we must first take a dive into the history that saw the Fascist Party and its leader, Benito Mussolini, claim such large support and be so successful. Following the end of the First World War and the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, the Kingdom of Italy experienced what has become known as the Biennio Rosso, or 2 Red Years in English. This was a 2-year period between 1919 and 1920, which saw intense social conflict in Italy between the left and right wings. It was during this revolutionary period in Italy that first saw Benito Mussolini, who prior to World War I had been an ardent socialist, form the first Fasci Italiani di Combattimento, or Italian combat leagues. These combat leagues were militantly right-wing and were used to break up left-wing rallies and general strikes, such as at the Alfa Romeo factory in Milan in November 1920. Eventually, Mussolini organised the militant Fasci di Combattimento into a political right-wing electoral movement in 1921, naming it the Partito Nazionale Fascista, or National Fascist Party. Later in that same year, Mussolini was elected to Parliament as a member of this party. The National Fascist Party attracted a large membership of former soldiers, who felt they'd been cheated out of their rightful lands of Dalmatia and Albania, which had been promised to them by the Entente in the Treaty of London in exchange for Italy joining the First World War on the Entente side. Most prominent of these was the Arditi. These were members of the Italian Special Forces, and it was their iconic black uniforms that became adopted by the fascists, leading to the iconic nickname, the Black Shirts. In 1922, when Mussolini learned that Prime Minister of Italy, Luigi Facta, had begun to organise a large anti-fascist demonstration for the 4th of November 1922, he decided to act first, and a march on Rome to seize power for the fascists. Leading members of the Fascist Party, including General Emilio Di Bono and Italo Balbo, organised the march, while Mussolini, the Duce, or leader, was waiting in Milan. On the 24th of October 1922, Mussolini declared in front of 60,000 members of the Fascist Party at the Fascist Congress in Naples, "Our programme is simple. We want to rule Italy." While fascist black shirts at the same time seized control of all strategic points in the country. On the 26th of October, the former Prime Minister, Antonio Salandra, warned current Prime Minister, Luigi Facta, that Mussolini was demanding his resignation, and that he was preparing to march on Rome. Facta, however, did not believe Salandra, and thought that Mussolini would govern quietly at his side. To meet the threat posed by the bands of fascist troops now gathering outside Rome, Luigi Facta, who at this time had resigned but continued to hold power, organised a state of siege for Rome. However, having had previous conversations with the king about the repercussions of fascist violence, he was sure the king would agree. Unfortunately, King Victor Emmanuel III refused to sign the military order. The March on Rome itself was only composed of fewer than 30,000 men, but the king, fearful of a civil war due to the large support for the fascists from the military, business class and right wing, summoned Mussolini to meet him. Finally, on the 29th of October 1922, the king handed Mussolini power, making him Prime Minister of Italy, as 25,000 black shirts paraded through Rome. This event signalled the start of fascist rule in Italy. From here, Mussolini would set about creating a one-party totalitarian state, eventually becoming the dictator of Italy in 1926. The March on Rome would go on to inspire Adolf Hitler's Munich Putsch, and although a failure, it would give Hitler a stage during his trial to voice some of his own ideas, and as such, marked the start of his own ascent to power.